What are we talking about today, Adam?
Today we are going to do sensory issues. Really important thing. I mean, I get a lot of sensory issues in my life, so I think it's good to share that experience with you lot.
Yeah, I agree.
What is sensory issues to you, Laura?
So, to me, I believe, as an ADHDer, that sensory issues and sensory processing disorder and all that kind of thing, it's essentially us with a slight overload of sensory input as a default. A neurotypical person, if we think about it on a graph, on a line, their kind of line is just very in the centre, very stable. It's kind of like everything sensory-wise kind of falls into place as a default usually. Whereas for us with ADHD, there's got to be something that helps us get to that point always, because our default sits just below or just below that all the time, and that could be objects, that could be a sound, it could be a texture, something that helps us reach the neurotypical general level of sensory satisfaction. So, for example, if I am constantly hearing someone next to me tapping a table and it's not socially appropriate to be like, oh, can you stop, or I don't know them that well, and it starts getting really, really, really frustrating, I just won't be able to concentrate, and it creates this kind of anxiety bucket in the bottom of my stomach. Or a sound that's constant and predictable, like snoring, for example. I know a lot of people don't like hearing people snore, but I'm going to try and describe what it feels like for me, which might be the same for a lot of neurotypical people out there, I don't know, but me as an ADHDer, this is how it feels for me. So if I hear someone snoring, because it's predictable and it's frustrating, I get this anxiety before it happens, before each time they do it, I'm like, oh. It gets to a point where, like, I'll get so frustrated that I will leave that room. I will leave and I will go and put myself on a floor somewhere else because it's so annoying. But I tell you what I've done. Recently, if I've been anywhere where someone's snoring next to me, and this is with actually cars that go past as well on a busy main road, I use a breathing technique where I inhale when they snore and exhale when they stop. So then it sets, so it kind of sets up this breathing pattern for me, and I can kind of, or where I can follow it, and that then in turn helps me sleep, and then before I know it, I am asleep. So that's a good technique. But to be honest, I think with snoring, I don't know who likes snoring or who likes listening to it, because I don't, and I don't think even neurotypical people can deal with snoring.
Oh.
You've kind of got the loud, abrupt sounds that can be distressing, but you've also got the low burning, predictable sounds. Like what I'd put into that category is like snoring, someone tapping on a table, someone constantly coughing, or something that irritates you. And then the other side of it is loud input, like hand dryers, like loud music, like people making you jump and screaming at you, that kind of thing. How does it make you feel when a really loud sensory input comes in? Can you think of a situation where that's happened to you and you've been really distressed?
Sounds, for me, I can't take a loud noise in an echoey spot. So actually just recently in theatre, because obviously we were doing our shows, the sound of everyone doing their acting, and in the stage, where it's all echoey and everything, I couldn't stand that. I can't stand being in that room, in that stage. It makes me so frustrated to hear that fucking sound of everybody doing their fucking acting and trying to just switch off. I can't actually do it because it pisses me off so much. It's like echoing around and it's distressing. I get fucking annoyed at it.
That's like a sensory overload, isn't it?
Yeah, so I have to literally go into the other room where they're playing pool. And that's how I have to deal with it, because I get overloaded with a sound so much. I get overwhelmed. Some people just don't like it but can deal with it. I get being overwhelmed with sound sometimes.
And I guess you're listening to all of the different inputs. Like, you're listening to the person on the stage, you're listening to the person rehearsing, you're listening to the conversation.
Trying to speak as well at the same time.
And it's like, oh, I can't do it, I can't do it. And it gets so overwhelming that you just have to remove yourself, or you just start screaming or something.
But it's funny because I really like live music. I really like listening to a gig. Underground venues are my favourite. Being in a loud and it's echoing back and it feels nice. But I feel like because that's in a tight, closed space, and I'm focusing on like one thing and just chilling.
It's one
Like
sound as well. It's one
Yeah.
music.
Yeah, I guess.
I
And
guess-
it's not loads of like crossed inputs.
Yeah, that's it. I think
Yeah.
it's the crossed inputs because
Yeah.
I get that as well. Like sometimes I'll be in a situation and more than one person are talking. I hear the fire brigade over there.
I'm so sensitive to alarms.
Yeah, no. So I do completely understand like the whole crossover thing. I think that's the ingredients that create a sensory overload. It's when there's so many crossovers. It's not necessarily just one thing. It's someone in your face asking you questions whilst you can hear things over there, whilst you can see things going on over there, whilst you have this physical sensation, this build up within you that then creates this overload.
Yeah.
I remember I was on like a holiday with friends last year, and I was gathering information about what everyone wanted from the Indian.
Mm-hmm.
And one second I was fine, and then the next second I was like, I'm going upstairs. And I was just sitting on the stairs. I was like, I can't do it. I need to be here and do it. I can't. And everyone just needed to leave me alone so that I could then do the maths to work out the money and work out what everyone wanted.
Cross inputs
Yeah.
again. You're trying to write down
Yeah.
and focus on that where someone keeps just speaking to you.
Yeah.
I get that, but also recently I went over to see family. This certain instance I couldn't take it because we went to a pub, right? There's people shouting at the game in the background. The game's on. I'm just watching because I'm interested. And then my sister's trying to have like a conversation about me or like about this really deep thing that I can't fucking focus on. And I'm getting really pissed off because she's like saying, yeah, so how are you? What are you doing? All this, like asking me a million questions that I can't focus on because I'm watching this thing in the background and I'm listening to her. And then also my dad's cutting off and trying to speak to me at the same time. And I'm like, listen, I can't do this shit. Also, I'm trying to ask my mum a couple things. So I'm trying to do 4 fucking things at once. And it's distressing. It's so distressing because there's so many crossed inputs. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I'm literally, sometimes, I just want to scream out and say, fucking stop speaking to me! Do you know what I mean? But I can't do that because that's fucking rude. I feel pissed off when I can't hold on to one thought and they're all coming at me like this. I want to be able to just chill and speak to people. But when you're all launching questions at me, I can't do it. And I think it's because I came back all of a sudden. They weren't really expecting that. So they were just trying to like catch up and ask me loads of questions. But I just couldn't deal with it because I'm like, I don't know how the fuck to respond to you right now.
Wow.
The reality is that is most days. It's better now because I tell them a lot. Listen, just try to understand that I'm not going to be able to respond to every single word. And a lot of people get that, which is good. And I feel like if you ever need to yell out and say like literally, guys, please just stop. You do this to me all the time. You're like, I'm trying to focus, stop speaking to me. I need to say that more. I'm quite agreeable in where I'll just try and like respond to everyone. And I'll try and be okay even when I know I can't do this. And I'm trying to like disguise it because I'm trying to mask it because like my mask's so big. I couldn't handle it anymore and I got overloaded.
Yeah. When I'm talking to you or in a room with you,
Yeah.
I'm really comfortable because I feel like I could be like, Adam, shut up, I'm doing this, and you'd completely understand. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, I'm filling out this,
Yeah.
I'm writing, like, be quiet.
No, I get it.
And I wouldn't even have to explain myself,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't be offended.
Yeah, yeah.
And vice versa. If you were
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to do that, I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get it, I'd do the same.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone else was talking to me in a different situation and I needed to focus and
You think
write
you're
something
being really
down.
rude or something.
Yeah, and I'd be like, can you stop that whilst I do this? That then could be seen as rude. But I think it's making people aware, and that's why I think, going back to the first episode, that's why a diagnosis can be really validating, because now I can say to people, I'm struggling to focus with all the sensory input, please could I do this and I'll be with you in just 1 second.
Yeah.
And there's kind of that understanding,
Yeah.
you know?
Maybe you don't have as much experience masking. I feel like your parents, that you're not a student, they got that you were a creative maybe mind from a very young age. And
What you're trying to say is my parents knew I was a bit special.
Yeah, your parents knew you were a fucking weirdo, basically. So they basically allowed you to like express that, right? Whereas I feel like a lot of people in my youth, most people who I hung out with were like very neurotypical. So in a sense, I got very good at suppressing that and fitting in with societal norms and masking. It's not what I'm best at, but I feel like I can sort of semi-function if I'm really so committed to doing something, just getting through it. And that's all it is, surviving.
Whereas I haven't had that experience of
Yeah.
having to mask as much, because I just haven't, especially nearing the end of secondary school. I surrounded myself with people who were all very, very neurodivergent. So the idea of masking just wouldn't make sense, because how on earth masking would be me being myself, because I'd be fitting in by being different with that lovely group of people from school. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to adjust to fit in because you already did fit in.
I guess I never learnt the skill set of masking because nothing was pressing enough for me to have to mask. The only situations I'd have to mask, I'm trying to actually think of them. There would have been some, probably in earlier secondary school, where I was trying to fit in more and trying to not act in my weird particular ways.
Or when you've just met someone, or like working into a new class or a new tutor or something.
Actually, going back to sensory issues, I just wanted to know if growing up, or even still, anything made you distressed in terms of like sensations in your body and textures and things like that.
Do you know what? I really hate people grabbing my wrists. I can't deal with it. That's the only place I'm like, don't touch me, is like around, right next to my hands, really tightly grabbing my wrist. And I hate stuff that cuts off my circulation. For me, like that feeling of cutting off the circulation, or like something being chopped off.
Have you ever gotten
like,
your blood pressure down?
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too.
I hate when it squeezes there.
Oh, I absolutely hate it. And I hate injections as well.
I hate injections.
Because it's not the pain, because whenever I get injections, people are like, oh, it's not painful. I'm like, it's not
feeling.
It's not about pain for me. An injection is, it's like a sensation of fluid going through my body, and that
being extracted.
Yeah, and it feels, and it just feels like it's inside me, and then it's like this horrible feeling of like, I need to get it out, and how do you get it out without being sick or like fainting or something? It's just this horrible sensation, and I wish more people would understand that for people who obviously have got sensory issues, injections like COVID vaccinations or any kind of vaccinations, anything like that, it's not necessarily about it being painful and about people being melts if they find it painful. It's not necessarily about it being painful. It's more about the sensation. I don't know, it's just like a distressing sensation. I don't know how to kind of relate it to something, a distressing sensation for an everyday person.
Maybe like a rat crawling through their arm or something.
Yeah. Or even just like a rat or a horrible
slime coral monster or something.
A horrible sensation. Now imagine that, but it's inside you, and it's physically there and you can't get it out. That for me is like what an injection is.
That's a good way to describe it, actually. Maybe people who don't have our brain will kind of understand that from that.
I hope some people, medical professionals, will listen and have better ways to talk people round and things.
And just understand it and be aware of it more.
To not dismiss it and to be like, I know it's sensory-wise, it's really distressing. I understand. If someone in a medical profession was to say that to me, I think I'd have a much better time getting injections.
And some doctors are like that. Like, I've met some like amazing doctors, like for blood tests and everything, that are just going to be short, like just reassuring you, just that's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes at the end of the day. It doesn't take like this big diagnosis sheet to be like, oh, this is what you're going through, sensory issues and blah, 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 blah. All it takes is for someone to just say to you and reassure you and be like, I know what you're going through, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What about like textures, like clothing, things like that? How have you dealt with sensations like that growing up and now?
To be honest, so growing up, actually, I wasn't really that aware of my sensory issues in terms of clothing. So the stuff that I was wearing, I really didn't like. And it took wearing stuff that made me feel nice. For me, I can't wear like tight stuff, like skin tight.
I hate jeans.
Yeah, like jeans. Everything I wear has to be baggy, be able to be free, and I feel cool in it as well, because I think a lot of it is the temperature as well. If it's baggy, it's cooler, and if it's tight, it's like warm, and I feel irritable, and I want to just break it off. Do you know what I mean? There's times I literally just want to stretch like a hoodie out and just break that, bit near your neck or something. There's so many times I wanted to do that. So for me, I can't wear like tight stuff. It just makes me feel so agitated and annoyed.
Yeah. For me, growing up and things, I'd had a lot of sensory issues, like with textures of clothing, like if something was itchy, or like my mum might get me clothes and there'd be sequins on one side, and I'd be very, very particular, like if I could feel the sequins on the other side against my skin, I'd be like, I don't like it, I'm not going to wear it. And often by that point, we would have taken the label off, cut the labels off inside, because I also had a lot of issues with the sensation of the permanent labels in clothes. We'd have to cut them out because I didn't like the feeling of them against my skin. But yeah, so by that point we couldn't take it back to the shop, and we'd waste a lot of money. The same with shoes. They had to be perfect, they had to be exactly the right size. Even to this day, I've got a pair of shoes that I think they're a size 6, and I'm a size 5.5, which is so annoying. And I've got like insoles for them, but whenever I wear them, I get so like frustrated and so like, like they're falling on my feet. I hate it. But I guess because I'm an adult, I have that realisation, like you can't just kind of buy a pair of 40 quid shoes and then like wear them once, decide once they're all dirty and mucky, I actually can't deal with them on a sensory level. I think in a way it's easier as an adult, because when you're a child you don't have the understanding of money, you don't have the understanding of, you can't just get what you want all the time. So when you're an adult, it's like, yeah, the alternative to dealing with this sensory issue is spending a big chunk of my money on more shoes. Which one do I want to do? And I guess in a rational way it kind of helps calm down and things.
Yeah.
Another thing I do is I wear tight socks in bed.
See, I just don't get how you can wear socks in bed.
That's the thing. I used to not wear socks in bed, and then I started wearing socks in bed for some reason. Something weird happens with a lot of things in me. I progress into like, oh, I always have to wear socks in bed, and then it's like, I always have to wear this certain type of sock in bed.
I guess you associate it with like a good feeling that you got that one day.
These socks that I wear in bed, they're really like, they're tight and they don't fall off and they don't fall down. But then Sports Direct or JD stopped selling them. I'm like, well,
you don't have them because you can't get
I don't have that security, and I get very cold feet and stuff as well. I don't know. It's a bit like somewhere there was an autistic boy who would only drink out of a certain Tommy Tippy cup, and they lost it or something. And then this boy, which wouldn't drink, and I think he was an autistic adult, I'm pretty sure. So he wouldn't drink then, and then there was this big thing about finding another cup so that he would start drinking again. Because imagine like your kid just not drinking, and I understand why, because if my ADHD made me have less understanding about consequences like not drinking, I would probably do the same. Because like with the socks, I'm like, oh shit, like what am I going to do if I can't buy these socks, because they're all getting holes and they're all deteriorating.
Drinking,
they're all deteriorating. What am I going to do? So
do you think impulse spending, does that comfort you?
Yeah, because actually I do it with food. All of this year at uni, I have spent loads of money on food I know full well I probably won't eat. On perishable food, like I'd buy ham, I'd buy bread, just so I know at the end of every day there's something there I can have. But 9 times out of 10 I wouldn't eat it.
Wouldn't even eat it, and a load of stuff just goes off, and same with me,
But it's just comforting, and
to know you've got something in there.
Yeah, but I think if I lived at home, then I'd have people to share it with. But because I kind of live by myself, and I don't have that relationship in my flat where I can say, look, do you want to share? So
that's the
so
thing,
many
buying
things
for yourself is like so hard.
It is really difficult.
Do you get issues like around temperature as well? So I've got Raynaud's. That's just, I get cold. But another thing to do with temperature is I get really, really distressed when I'm cold. So say I'm going swimming in the ocean. I'm insecure about coming out of the sea and not having a towel and not having a warm shower to get into, because I'll get so like, oh my god, like I'm cold, I can't deal with it. Also getting out of the shower, especially in winter when I'm really, really cold, and I have to run. What I do, because I've got a heater at home and I've got a heater at uni, I have to put the heater on, just blowing air at me. I have to sit in front of it to get warm. Even in the summer, I have to sit in front of it because it's painful to be cold. Actually, a lot of self-soothing for me comes from temperature. So, for example, like getting warm after you've been cold or something.
So it's like, I guess, in the winter, you think about blankets and warm fires. It's that. It's like substituting one kind of, through temperature, substituting anxiety for being cold to then soothe myself by being warm. because that's kind of like, it's kind of like a road. So I go from sensory dissatisfaction to then, right, I'm going to make myself cold to distract myself, so it gives me a central focus of a sense of some kind, which I guess feeling, to then get warm, and then that then makes me feel relaxed, because a lot of sensory stuff makes you on edge, stops you from being relaxed. Summer and winter, like in winter it's nice sleeping because you can get really cozy, whereas in summer there's
just warm and agitating.
Agitating, that's it. Take that agitation and put that into every day, not just summer, and that's kind of like sensory dissatisfaction to me. That's it. For a neurotypical person to understand, the agitation you get when you're hot and trying to sleep, you need something. You're just constantly trying to look for something. You want an ice pack, you want a fan, and not being able to grab that, not being able to have that.
That sensory satisfaction to like offset some sensory dissatisfaction. Not having that, because obviously you said you would default into sensory dissatisfaction, so you feel like you need something like medicine or something to take that off, right? That's your like medicine. I think what people don't understand is it's our brains, right? It's not like our stomachs are feeling like bad, right, and we're just feeling ill. It's our brains, isn't it? It's ADHD. We will feel agitated, right? Our brains releasing dopamine. Oh fuck, I feel bad now because I don't have anything like with me. For example, the other day I was on the train and I needed a coffee. Like, it was kind of cold, and that warm coffee in the train, that chocolate, it would be really nice. And I drank it all before the train came, and I was really sad because I had nothing to occupy me on the train. And I feel like that's the same sort of thing.
I always try and get warm drinks before getting on trains.
Because
it gives me something to do. It gives
me
sweets
or something.
Something to pick up. That leads on to the next thing, which is like food and things. Like, do you feel like you constantly need to eat, or that you don't eat, or what's your relationship with food on a sensory level?
I used to eat quite a bit. I feel recently I've substituted that need for eating food to make me feel good for like other stuff, drinking or something. There's a good point, because I do feel like I need food before I go to bed, otherwise I'll get worried. Anxiety thoughts will replay over and over again, and they'll be like, I haven't ate, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna be so much skinnier in the morning, or I feel really hurt, what about if I throw up or something? So I feel like I'll need to eat and feel like at least full before like I go to bed, and like, or I can switch off and feel happy. I feel like that happiness is linked to food. But when I see the food in front of me, I'm not like, oh, I really want to eat that anymore, like I used to be. But now I'm like, I mean, I could eat that. Like, the actual process of eating the food I don't enjoy. I'd rather just watch the TV. I watch the TV and eat food, but the food's almost secondary. I'm involved in this and I'm just eating it along.
No, I wish I had that mindset.
Really?
Yeah. If it's there, I eat it. If someone offers it, I'll never say no.
Yeah, but if it's like a really nice, sensational food, like it's really refreshing or something, that's what I like. Not like really big calorific stuff. I don't like that, but like refreshing, cold, like Tango ice blast drinks for the like cinema with some popcorn to like wetting it up.
Just can't relate. I want pies, I want potatoes, I want carbs, I want fat. So for me, sensory wise, taste, I love all you can eat buffets. I love trying things. My dad always cuts off a bit of whatever he's eating and puts it on my plate, like a tiny bit, because he knows it's not me being greedy, it's just me wanting to taste new things.
A little bit of everything. Yeah,
exactly,
a
little bit of everything, trying all new things. Someone's offering me, I'm like, yes, it's just trying things and getting that dopamine rush, that, do you know what I mean? Like,
that new thing, that novelty is that,
all I want is that sensation in my mouth and that difference, and I just love it. It's a soother, isn't it? It's like chocolate, spice, I love it. But the thing is, like, a lot of people around me, I've noticed, if someone offers food, people are like, I'm alright. And I could be as full, I could be on the brink of being sick. But you'd
still want it.
I'm still taking it because I don't think about my stomach, I think about my mouth.
I'm so different to that. It's an anxious thing where it's like, I can't forget now that, like, I'm going to feel sick. And I get, like, really bad anxiety sometimes when I feel sick. Like, I actually just end up being sick. Because of, like, I manifest I manifest me into being like, I'm going to feel sick if I eat it. So I eat it. and then I actually start feeling sick because I'm thinking of feeling sick.
So
I manifest
the
it.
way, so here's what I've realised. Hear me out here. So our ADHDs manifest in different ways in terms of food. So
Yeah.
for you, your ADHD in terms of food, with the symptom that prevails the most is anxiety and thinking about what if.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, the symptom that prevails for me is the need for taste satisfaction and
trying everything.
Yeah, trying everything, and curiosity and
Yeah.
impulse. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
But see, I'll probably get like that, but on a different situation. Curiosity and impulse. That's more me in other situations rather than eating food. So I feel like we'll manifest. There'll be certain things that I'm not anxious about at all. There's obviously a lot of different like sensory inputs, right? One thing I really like, moving into like fluids and not actually stuff you ingest, but stuff like that, like sensory, like clean your teeth or something. And for me, that pain of like the mouthwash is like really nice, and I feel like it's cleaning it because I feel like I'm getting better from it. Feeling that thing in the future and like feeling that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and I really like that sensation
Yeah.
of mouthwash. Pain that is like quite bad, but then
Yeah.
stops before it gets horrifically bad.
Yeah.
And the day after exercise, I absolutely love the feeling.
Because it's after, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it feels clean and it's like achy a little bit, but then like it's still, you feel like you've got better from it. So
yeah,
that
and also
prevails.
going back to that sensory dissatisfaction as a default, when I have achy muscles from exercise and I'm in bed, I can sleep so much better. Kind of brings my body into some kind of relaxation, like the pain is pushing one way, lying down is pushing another way.
Yeah.
So it kind of brings out some kind of sensory satisfaction.
What is your sensory around smells? Or do for you?
I think smells are really powerful because obviously smell can bring you into another place, it can bring you into another world if you let it. But I love strong smells. I love the smell of petrol. I love the smell of bleach,
Yeah.
of cleaning products, of new carpet,
Yeah.
of new paint. If someone asks me what my favourite smell is, it's not flowers, it's not perfume, it's going to be like fucking bleach.
So smells for me bring up a lot of memories. And obviously I've got like a lot of trauma from smells and a lot of like great memories from smells. So some smells that I'll smell and I'll be like, oh, I can't deal with this, I need to get away from this smell because it's just like, it's bringing up so much history. And there'll be some smells I'm like, oh, this is really nice, I feel like really relaxed now. And that's just like based on like experience and like what I'm thinking in the future. And I think what I've learned from this session, like sensory input and ADHD can manifest in so many different ways for so many different behaviours. Patterns can be on certain smells and not be there on noise.
Yeah, so
Like you were saying, more of an anxiety pattern, right?
Yeah, that
For
there's
some other stuff.
there's different sensory issues. They all kind of come out in different ways for everyone with ADHD. But the main point is that they are there and that people should validate them. I think going back to that, the analogies, remembering that some things like injections can feel as bad as a slimy slug in your veins.
Yeah.
Imagine that, but inside you. The main point for neurotypicals that would like to understand perhaps what it is to feel constantly like you're lacking sensory input is remember that feeling of in the summer when you're really, really hot and you're trying to sleep but absolutely nothing will cool you down, and it's like that a lot of the time. It's that kind of
And you can't get away from it. It's just everywhere.
The essence of that feeling in everyday life, just constantly needing something to bring you back to that neurotypical level.
Actually, I think that's just really important because everyone goes through shit, right? ADHD people go through shit that maybe a lot of people don't understand. But everyone goes through shit. More neurotypical people's shit is just maybe like easier to understand and see than people with ADHD shit.
Yeah.
It's like they're going through a normal breakup and they're feeling quite sad about it. At the same time, we're probably just feeling distressed about where we're sitting. And that's the reality for us. Yes, of course, I would rather not feel distressed about where the fuck I sit. But at the end of the day, I do. And that's alright. But while other people are there talking about the stuff that everyone gets stung by, we're here and no one fucking understands. But that is fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?